If your ink's too slow and your nib won't flow, here's one of the places that you can go. Larry is here to see you through with Mr. Announcer and Cubby too. It's Larry's Fountain Pen Reviews.
Mr. Hines, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Always, you're welcome to be on anytime you want. So Jim has a lot of things to talk with everybody, and he's going to show a lot of his new things that he's made, created, and he's going to tell you a little about this journey that he's on again, because you never get tired of hearing it, because he's always creating new pens, new life, and we're going to share it with you. Jim, take it away.
Hi everybody. For those of you who don't know me, Jim Hines, custom pen maker out of Dallas. I've been at this a number of years now. To my right, your left, is my niece Rachel. She's one of our employees. Hello. And a budding pen maker in her own right. She actually can make everything at the moment that I can. So we've expanded quite a bit, and just start off with some real exciting stuff here. We actually made it into our first retail store. So we are now in Atlas Stationers. We have 6 pen models that they're carrying. One sold out in less than 24 hours already, so that's good news. Wow! And finally, it took us long enough, but we got Gromgool's attention, and Friday at the Dallas Pen Show, we're going to be releasing a limited edition numbered series unique to Gromgool's. It'll be one of our higher end pens. I think the MSRP is going to be around $395, but it'll have a titanium number 8 nib. Big and honking, beautiful pen. So that's what's the most recent stuff that's been going on. Oh, and I think we've done 11 or 12 pen shows this year already. Dallas coming up will be 13 or 14. I got to count. So we've expanded from the original 8 we did, 6 years ago. So we're moving around. Hey, Marilyn.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, sir. Okay.
Sorry, I'm on the go today, so I'm gonna mute myself.
No problem. And what else we got coming up? We got another collab coming up with Pvd Plume here. Hopefully in a month or so. We're gonna bring back an old filling mechanism for Pvd. And it'll be done on Larry's favorite platform, black and red ripple ebonite. It'll look like an Americana, but it'll have a slightly different clip. We are out of, or nearly out of, Americana clips. I am having them manufactured. We're going to get about 5,000 of them before the end of the year. But right now we're down to, I think, our last 15 or 20. So things,
you know, real quick on that Americana, you know, the first time I laid eyes on that pen, seriously, really is, I just fell in love with it. I just thought that was the most beautiful pen I've ever seen, and I would have thought that thing would have took off like a skyrocket, you know, but it's just a really nice, beautiful pen. It really is. So hopefully one day people are going to understand where I'm coming from and try one out. Okay, Jim, go ahead.
Oh, it's okay. It's one of our favorites too. Although I have to say it's probably one of Rachel's least favorites to make.
Okay.
I mentioned that she can make pretty much anything I can at the moment. That one took a long time for her to master.
Rachel.
We should talk about how much fun you had with that one.
It is the most difficult pen to shape. I procrastinated every chance I get. Most of the time he'll get like 5 or 6 roughed out ones just sitting on his lathe, and I'm like, oh, you need to shape those, and I'll leave them to him. But
the unique part is fitting that clip ring, that deco clip it has. So it's one of the few clips we use that sit over the pen cap. So getting that sized appropriately, not undercut, not overcut, it takes quite a bit of finagling, and to make it not loose so it spins around and defeats the purpose. So.
Can you show us one of those pens, please?
I knew somebody was going to ask that. Yeah, give me 1 second. Huh?
I almost brought one up here.
Go get one. Okay. I'll get a screenshot and she'll go get one.
That's awesome. A pen shop on the Starship Enterprise.
You like that?
Yeah, I do.
It's actually
That's
Battlestar Galactica.
That's his new office, Will.
That is cool.
Yes, the Americana.
There it is. Just look at it. To me, that's just sharp looking pen.
The clip we've been using, and the clip that you see there, is a vintage clip from the 1930s. And I did not write down the manufacturer when I found it. Last year, the background wallpaper for the Ohio Pen Show's website had the manufacturer on there. They were a pen and pencil combo manufacturer out of Ohio, and they were the ones that used that clip on both their pens and pencils. And it was one that I'd never heard of before. They weren't around a real long time, but they're the only ones I've been able to find and confirm use that clip.
Dan,
Good look.
Which model is that now?
What's that?
Which model is that, Jim?
Oh,
The
there we go.
Americana.
Oh, I thought the Americana had a rounded finial at the end. Is that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was flat. I'm sorry.
It's sort of flat and rounded.
Okay.
You can get it either way. It depends on how you want it.
I love that clip. Beautiful. Nice pen.
And then
depends how she makes it.
everybody say hi to Elise.
Alice!
Hello.
Hello.
My friends.
Has everyone seen the new Narwhal Year of the Tiger pen by now?
I have not.
Oh,
No,
Troy's
I have
got
not.
his.
I've seen it from Troy, but that's it.
Well, she did the resin for him.
Nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
Put that on screen if you don't mind, Troy. Jim.
So it comes in this cool little box.
Oh, that's got the new name.
Yeah, now they still pronounce it narwhal. I can't pronounce it in the Icelandic.
I did see that. That's pretty.
Okay.
Oh, it's got the little port
Portholes.
ink port. Yeah.
Yep, it's their Nautilus model, so it's really an ink window. It's a piston filler.
Almost looks like quartz. Very beautiful.
And they, this one, they came out with a 14K nib on their own. And it's plated dark rhodium like the rest of the trim. And I tuned the Lisa's up.
Jim,
Yes.
did you say that's Narwhal's nib?
Yes.
That's
Proprietary. They make it themselves.
Yes, they
Wow.
make it themselves.
oh, okay. Oh, wow.
It is not a stock Yovo or a Bach. It is their own design, their own feed. And it's actually, as Larry would put it, it's incredibly juicy.
Is it
That's a medium, and it
ebonite?
writes like a broad.
Is it ebonite feed?
No, it's an ABS feed.
Okay.
It
Well, awesome pen. That's a great looking pen.
oh, it's absolutely gorgeous. And the consistency, what I find amazing is her ego is going to get big, but her consistency from rod to rod, you know, if you look at all the narwhals out there, yes, you're going to find differences, but you can all tell it's the same pen. They're not radically different.
Now, is this an exclusive
Yes.
through Drum Ghouls, did you say?
Yeah, we got one for Dromgools. You know,
Drum Ghouls is in my back door, and I love family-owned brick and mortar, so this is exciting. I like this.
I think it's going to lead to perhaps Dromgools being our second retailer. We've been having conversations with Michael and his dad now since Philly last year, or Philly this year. And, you know, he just decided on resin counts and configuration in San Francisco. So we've spent, since we got back from San Francisco, we've made 35 pens in roughly 5 days.
That sounds
And
like
we
a little
just got-
overtime.
A little bit. We actually just picked them up. You believe it or not, Larry, I finally met the new owners of Retro 51.
Oh, okay. How were they?
They're wonderful. In fact, look for some stuff, maybe some collabs between us. They did the engraving for this. Now, this doesn't have the clip installed. It will have a clip. But here is.
That's pretty. I like the pattern on it. It looks good.
So this is our big old Avancio model. It's called the Nordic Woods. It's going to have a bronze plated titanium number 8 and a bronze plated clip. And they're all engraved with the number. I don't think it's going to show up. But the body's got the number 1 of 35. And this one is our really deep posting clone. So it's not back heavy when you post it. And this got our hand threaded quad start threads. So it all lines up perfectly. But yeah.
So is that more of a girthy pen? A girthy
What's that?
pen? Is that more of a big pen, girthy?
It's bigger than an Opus 88.
Okay, that's
It's got a 16 millimeter barrel. The grip section, I think, is 14.75 millimeters at its narrowest. And it's right about, what is it, 5.10 inches?
Which one?
The length capped. It's just under 6 inches.
Yeah, it's like 5.9.
Yeah, 5.9, 5.10 inches capped. And about the same posted, actually, believe it or not.
Somewhere.
So
Legit,
that's,
this is the first I've heard about narwhal venturing out doing their own nib thing. Is this kind of a first for both you guys?
well, first let's separate Hines pens from Starry Night Resins behind me. Starry Night Resins, at least most of you know, has been casting my resins for the last couple years. She started with the Papier Plume Blues pen, then went on to the Macaw pen for Chicago Pen Company, the Birds of the World series, and then she started doing the Mermaid lineup and whatnot.
And Frank's Federalist.
And Frank's Patriot pen. At Philly this year, Narwhal was looking for some additional resin artists, and we've been talking to Frank on and off, you know, for a year or so. And he started off by saying, hey, can you do like 100 of your Phoenix pens for us? We'd like to do a small limited edition for Gold Spot. And that blew into, in February, Valentine's Day last year, they came and spent the weekend with us. Elise and their art team were prototyping resins. Next thing you know, that turned into a 2,500 rod order across 4 different materials and 5 different materials. And Starry Night Resins was born, officially formed, and she's a company in her own right now, Larry. So she'd be a good one to have on to interview separately without my shadow hanging over her. What's that one? Oh,
That's your,
yep, that's your Patriot.
Patriot, yeah.
So is
So
that,
from that standpoint, it's a first for everybody in this. You know, even though Elise is her own company, obviously she's got the support system of Francisco, myself, and everybody else. And then Narwhal on their own, he decided right about the Philly show too, that he wanted to develop a gold nib that was a little more cost effective. Let's be honest, Yovo and Bach have quite a premium on their gold nibs. When you look at the raw price of gold, the amount of gold that's in them. So he released this with this pen specifically, and those gold nibs will be offered up to us makers if we wish to use them. They're compatible with the Yovo sections, so I can pop out a steel Yovo, pop in his gold nib, and it'll function flawlessly. But it'll have a price point of more like $70 for an upgrade, not 110.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah, 70's not bad.
I think
70 for a gold nib, I think, is reasonable.
I seen the pen on one of the sites for $295 with the gold nib. That's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Especially their own nib.
And I'm telling you, I've only played with it for about an hour. Troy may have a little more insight, but it writes well. I don't have a whole lot of complaints. Of course, I'll probably take that over to Kirk when he's here this weekend and have him do some magic on it for release. And I've got one on hold with Kirk for me in a broad. I'm going to have him put a fun grind on it for me, just so I have one.
Troy, you have one of those nibs?
I do, but I didn't get the gold. I just went ahead and got the steel, the 195 price point. I ordered it in a broad, knowing that in my past experience has been that they go just a little narrower than like a medium, writes more like a fine on the fine side. So I went ahead and ordered the broad, which writes more like a medium.
And I think, Troy, that steel nib in there is his, not Yovo.
That was my understanding, because I think they started their own nibs even when they did the original series, and they only offered the fine nib. So I knew that they were doing their own nibs. So I just assumed they continued doing that, doing their own stuff. So, but so far this has been really good. I mean, look, I didn't need another Nautilus. I picked one. I picked one up in DC, and you know, because they were selling them, and I already knew that you guys were going to be working with Narwhal, because you and I had a conversation, I think, at the Raleigh show, and you guys told me it was coming up, and I kept my mouth shut. I didn't want to tell anybody. You know, didn't want to divulge too much. But then I didn't know that was the model that was going to be Starry Night Resins. I had no clue that that's what was launching. And then somebody had posted it on social media. I was like, well, wait a minute. Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Okay, you know what? I really don't need another one, but doggone it, I'm going to go get one of Elise's pens from Narwhal guys. Because I enjoyed talking to the Narwhal guys and hanging out with them some in DC. And I said, the Nautilus is a doggone good pen, too. So, yeah. Okay, now I got 2. And I still haven't even recorded my video that I was going to do on the Nautilus. So now I got 2 to show off. So, cool. Yay, I get to brag on 2 different companies now.
Great price point. It really is. Steel or gold.
Well, we appreciate it, Troy. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
They've been flying off the shelves. It's been pretty incredible.
Well, if you look at the Gold Spot website, you'll see a lot of the options. I think fine and medium are already sold out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they had like broad and 1.1 stub. I think, were the others that were there the last time I had looked. But I got in early enough, so I actually got my selection. And so I said, yeah, I already got the broad and the Nautilus that I picked up in DC, and it wrote really, really well. So I knew that I was going to get quality with it. So I said, all right, I'll get another one, but I like the broad nib, so I'll stick with the broad nib on this one too. So cool.
Nice.
Jim, don't
So,
your
Larry,
pens have don't you have a variety of nib colors on your pens?
I have, at the moment, we have 13 different colors, and in about a day or two, we're going to have, roses, 15. We're mixing up a rose gold and a copper. And have you all seen the Esterbrook Northern Lights release? The purple, the green, and the blue with the matching nib and finial and clip?
Yes. And
the original pink sands. We did all that plating for Esterbrook. So we're also in partnership with them. And we're the only ones that do the color, in my opinion, properly. There's two ways to get color. Montegrappa and Monteverde have been using what's called Pvd coding, which is polyvapor deposition. Hi, Natalie. It's our chief polishing officer, everybody.
Ah.
Hello.
So the CPO. That's the CPO?
Exactly. Yes, sir. So the PVD coating, they use it in guns, firearms a lot. It gives you that gunmetal gray, but it doesn't hold up to alkaline very well or extreme acids, but it'll take heat. What we have will hold up to most bases and most acids.
A lot of fountain pen inks are acidic too, so that's good to know.
Yeah, acids won't touch our plating, but if it's a real high base, for example, Noodlers is like 8 or 9 on the pH scale. Noodlers over time will eat the plating off. If I need to strip a colored nib, we basically give it a bath in liquid plumber for 24 hours and it'll peel it off.
What about like an iron gall ink, Jim?
We haven't tried it yet. It's been one of the things that I've been wanting to try, but I'm not a fan of iron gall ink, so I haven't ventured down there, and I haven't found a good one that I'm willing to try.
The only one I think I've ever tried is Roar and Klinger, and
yeah,
it's supposed to be a true iron gall ink.
If it's a true iron gall ink, it needs to be very, very acidic then. And for the dip pens that I use, that's real acidic. And if you make it too basic, it'll crash out of solution. There'll be no pigment left to form. So I just don't believe in using those in fountain pens. Dip pens, yeah, but not in fountain pens.
I agree.
Yeah, it'd probably eat most of the insides away, but I don't think the acid would touch the nib.
Not.
I can dip the nib in a 20% hydrochloric acid solution and have nothing happen to it. That's stronger than pool acid.
Yeah, don't try writing with that though.
No, don't splash it in your eyes and things like that. But overall, what we did when we signed the deal with Esterbrook, we were actually at the Triangle Pen Show not this past year, but the year prior. And we'd taken one of our turquoise nibs. We bought a bottle of Bay State Blue from Frank, and we dropped the nib in the bottle of Bay State Blue, and we left it on the table Friday, Saturday, and we took it out Sunday afternoon. And the nib won. And they're like, okay, let's do it.
That's good.
So even though that if you buy one of our nibs, the nib care card will say stay away from noodlers and private reserve. For the most part, I think we're past that now. We've kind of overcome that obstacle, but better safe than sorry.
Jim, I think even some other pen makers out there, I think Joe Little, isn't he offering some of your colored nibs as well?
No, I don't let them have colored nibs. per my
Okay.
Esterbrook agreement, the only way we do a colored nib is if it's a true Hines and whomever collab. So for example, John Tello from Tessori, Italy.
That must be where that must be where I saw it then, because I was on someone's website. Yeah. Okay.
Yep, they're doing that Pen Addict St. Jude's charity.
There you go. Yeah. Okay.
That's a true Tello, Hines, and a few other maker contribution that we can do. But I'm a pen maker. I'm not a nib manufacturer. And the minute we pulled that in-house back in 2019, every maker I'd ever taught and every maker I hadn't taught all want, oh, can I get 5 orange nibs? Can I get 5 of these red nibs? No, you're not. That's my thing. I spent all that time and money researching, perfecting, getting it up and running. That's our edge. That's just for us. Now, you will see some makers out there. You can buy purple, red, and black nibs from Beaufort Inc. overseas in England. They use a plating solution that we used. Well, when we first started using the nibs, we bought them from Pablo over at FP Nibs. And there's 2 manufacturers of the plating that we use. They both are in Italy. One is good, one isn't good. Pablo and Beaufort use the one that isn't good. We use the one here available in the US that's rock solid. So if you get one from another maker and it doesn't have a Hines logo on it or it's not advertised by Hines, odds are it's going to peel within a year. And that's just not to talk bad about anybody. It's just the facts. I know where they're plating and how they're getting done.
Jim, will your coating hold up to flex nibs?
Yes, it flexes right away. It's just like, it's the same as if you were to nickel or gold plate a nib or black rhodium plate a nib.
All right.
It goes on in like a 4 micron layer and it will last flex. It'll plate over gold. It'll plate over titanium.
Nice.
You know, the flexible nature of a full flex nib isn't going to cause it to crack or bend or anything else. It's adhered to that piece of metal.
I guess with titanium, you could actually heat it to get different colors. I just don't know what that does to the temper of the metal. I'm not familiar with titanium at all.
It depends on how it's done. If you use a laser, you can usually isolate that quite a bit over to the areas you want and minimize any tempering. Titanium will lose its spring when heated. If it's heated repeatedly, it becomes incredibly brittle and will then crack. So while it gives a nice effect, if done properly, it'll last. If done improperly by an amateur, you're going to end up with nothing to write with, unfortunately. It's better used for clips and thicker pieces of metal that are less likely to result in impact or drop.
Does anybody use your pens for eyedropper purposes? In other words, yeah, because there's no internal metal, right? It's just.
Yep. Good. So the only thing I don't recommend is eyedroppering the ebonite pens.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Ebonite still, even though the likelihood of it bleeding through is slim, it's still very absorbent. But all of our acrylic and plastic pens can be eyedroppered with just a little silicone grease. We don't recommend it unless you know what you're doing in anything below a medium. So I wouldn't recommend eyedroppering an extra fine or a fine unless you know to ask for an extra breather hole or know how to put a little extra breather hole in the housing. Otherwise, you're going to get a lot of burping just from air exchange.
Yeah, as you know, the gigantic Namiki Emperor is an eyedropper pen, but ebonite is so thick. You know, I wouldn't worry about anything with that pen. I mean, that's a pretty huge wall thickness on a Namiki Emperor.
That's true, and I've got one now too, and yeah, that's, well, and nothing's going to bleed through that lacquer anyways. Exactly. Even if it were to make it through the thickness of the ebonite, that lacquer is going to seal it in, and you're not going to see it underneath.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great pen.
Oh my God, that pen was like my one of two Braille pens, and I picked it up in Baltimore this year, and I absolutely love that pen.
I get stare at the
It
nib
goes
all-
everywhere with me.
Yeah, it's a great pen.
Hey, Jim,
Uh-huh.
can ask you a question. We was talking about eyedropper pens. Have you found that, I don't know the difference between acrylic or resin or all that, but you know, I've seen the science of ink come about within the last year with all the different colors and stuff. Have you found that the science or the ability to produce different acrylics or resins has changed and been able to do more with that? And is it easier to machine, or can you manipulate that where it makes it easier to machine and the different colors? And I don't know, it just seems like the acrylics or resins have come so far within the last year, the science of them, I guess, or is
yes
that
and no.
yes and okay.
Yes and no, and let's break down plastics into three major categories. We'll leave some of the vintage materials out of this. You have acrylic acetate or an acetate-based plastic. It's a little harder than, say, Alumilite. Chemically, it's got a different composition. It polishes real nice, but it tends to be a little more on the brittle side, sort of like a polyester resin, which is what you'll find in Mont Blanc's precious resin. That's a secret nobody wants them to tell you. Then you have a urethane-based resin, which is, you'll have heard the term Alumilite before with maker pens. Alumilite's a urethane-based resin. I've seen more advancements in urethane-based resins in the last few years than I have anywhere else. The problem is with some of the more advanced resins they have, it's not as convenient to do it outside of an industrial setting, meaning there are specific pouring temperatures and paths that you have to follow. There's specific curing recipes that you have to follow that require staged heating and laboratory ovens and things like that. Tim McKenzie over at Diamondcast has been doing a lot of experimenting with alternative urethane-based resins and has actually made quite a bit of progress, but he's already set to do some of those industrial-based methods in his location today. It's not something that we'd be able to easily set, say, Elise up to do here at Starry Night Resins. She would be limited to the Alumilite, which is a perfectly acceptable resin. The third category, for all intents and purposes, is going to be epoxy-based resins. You'll see a lot of epoxy resin used in general crafting, those waterfall tables everybody likes to make. The problem with most epoxies is the heat deflection temperature. When they're cured, they're harder than Alumilite, they polish better than Alumilite, and they're more water clear than Alumilite, meaning when you look at it, the colors will be more vibrant, they'll have more depth. But if you heat them up above 140 degrees, say if you're sanding or polishing on a mandrel, you can completely deform that pen and it'll never go back to the way it was. That means if it gets accidentally left in a hot car, if it gets left out on a picnic table at a family event and it's 85 degrees out and sunny, that pen is not going to be anymore. So when I first started, I was a big proponent of epoxy, specifically for the color and the clarity. But I rapidly found that the heat resistance issues are terrible. And those that are formulated for higher heat are not anywhere near as clear. So it's always a give and take. There is no perfect resin.
does the heat resistance come into the factor when you're machining it, or
Oh, absolutely. I've
use
drilled a
coolant?
blank too hot. I've drilled a blank too hot and watched it completely collapse. Machining old vintage pure celluloid.
Yeah.
Celluloid is not fireproof. It's quite flammable. And if you get it to that flash point, which is not, it's right around that epoxy, 130, 140 degrees.
It's a,
One of the factories,
doesn't true
one of the
celluloid
factories
have
lit on fire.
a camphor smell?
That camphor smells acrylic acetate.
Okay.
So that's the telltale way to know if you're using acrylic acetate. And I think right now we only have one standard pen that uses acrylic acetate, and then one that we can do it with options. So my American Graffiti, if you've ever seen that on the website,
yep,
that's a Taiwanese made acrylic acetate. It's done through plastic injection molding to control the pattern very precisely. It always looks the same. And then in our Avancio line, some of our demonstrators, we have a Funhouse and a Glow Stick Avancio that are both acrylic acetates. Those are the only place we use them.
Tim, does anybody still make or use, besides vintage material, the casing? I know it's pretty finicky when you get wet. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't like water a whole lot. That becomes difficult to machine.
Yeah,
If
it's beautiful.
you
Some
can
of the
get your
patterns
hands.
are beautiful.
What was that,
I
Joe?
said some of the patterns are beautiful. They're beautiful.
Oh my
some of the
God.
patterns. Yeah, Tiffany.
I think in many respects, some of the old vintage casing, especially the Tiffany ones, are far more beautiful than even Arco celluloid. If you can get your hands on it, there are still makers. Tim Cullen has an incredible stockpile of casing at his house. I went and visited him in Atlanta this year. I'm quite jealous of that. And he uses it a bit. Jason Olson has a bit of a cache of it.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible to find anywhere else outside of just a few of those guys that have been doing this a little longer than I have.
Yeah,
I've got a couple around here that I've been terrified to use. So they sit until I get up enough, stones to give it a try. I just don't want to ruin it because it's so beautiful.
Tim actually made his first in-house nib recently, and
I've been watching him.
Yeah, he hasn't split the tines yet. That's going to be the mark, right?
I know. He's been sharing some inside photos with me as he's gone along the way, and I'm so completely impressed with what he's done.
Yeah,
I think Argentium was a good move because you can. I know he's not planning on doing it, but you can spring temper Argentium. 500 degrees for an hour, and you can get a nice spring temper on it, so that you could actually push it just a hair and have it keep its shape much softer than, say, a stainless nib. And I've always wondered about doing nibs out of stainless, because I know there's that one gentleman in Korea or Vietnam, one of the two, that does a beautiful sterling nib. But Argentium, I think, is the right way to go. I'm excited to see how that ends up.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, Larry, you think we got a little bit going on these days?
Can you show some of your? Can you show some of your nibs, the colored nibs, and the regular ones and the sizes? Let's go over that a little bit.
So we don't only do nibs. Just to give you a little preview. Hold that while I'm doing this. We try to match whenever we can all the hardware.
Okay.
So that's red and purple.
I like that red one. Actually, pretty. That purple really doesn't do it justice because I can't really see the color of it too well.
Green, blue. Larry, what's your favorite color? Blue?
Blue.
Jim, is that anodized or is it
blue? No, please
like
don't use that nasty word.
Oh,
no, it's a running joke between me and Brad Dowdy, because for the last 4 years he's always called them anodized, and I've corrected them probably 100 times. It is an actual electroplating process.
Through an electrolysis like chrome plating and
it's exactly like you would nickel or gold plate.
Nickel plate.
It's the same equipment. It's the same equipment. We just use a stainless steel anode. And then, you know, we have a bath of solution that contains the pigment, and that gets drawn to the nib themselves.
Yeah. Well, my bad. I apologize for
I was just teasing you. You're all good. I was just teasing. Just because, like I said, it's been a running joke with Brad and I for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Okay. Love that blue one. Love the purple.
So we got blue, green, black, fuchsia, and orange.
So those are the same, done the same way if you used to have a bumper off at 53 Buick and take and have it chromed.
That's purple. And we did orange. We don't do all the colors all the time. There's some that are far more popular than others. Oh, you know where I know? Put that back in the right spot. I've got an emerald one down here.
Hey, Jim, so what happens to the slit and the tip? Is it ever possible to seal them together? In other words, have a problem with the plating bridging the...
Actually, yeah, Joe, what happens sometimes, here's turquoise, by the way.
That's beautiful.
Well, pretty.
What happens sometimes is during the plating process, sometimes that slit will close off. And all we end up doing is we'll take the nib on a flat surface and just press, and it goes pop, and, you know, run a brass shim through it, and everything's all good.
Jim, do you have to do, I've seen some platings when it comes to cars where they will actually nickel plate first before they put the final coat on there of chrome or whatever. Is there any I don't want to give your technique away, but is there a pre-plating that's necessary?
Yeah, in this instance, no worries. There's nothing proprietary here. A stainless steel nib will plate the color right over the top. Okay. There's no additional prep other than the normal electric cleaning process that we do to open up the metal's pores. If we're doing titanium, if we're doing gold, in order to get that color to match, say like a stainless steel clip, if it were plated together, we will do a 30-second nickel plate, just a real light color. That gives us the base so that that bright color will match across the pen. Nice. Otherwise, you end up getting a hue or two darker than, say, stainless or nickel.
Interesting.
And that little nickel pre-plate doesn't hurt the gold or titanium.
No.
In fact, if you were to like black rhodium plate a gold nib, you still have to nickel plate it first.
Interesting.
What do you have lasered on, like engraved or lasered or whatever, on your actual nib?
Well, for about the last year, honestly, Lannis, we have not engraved our nibs. We have been trying to purchase our own laser. And in fact, if you look right there where I'm pointing, we finally got our first fiber laser in today. And we'll be rapidly getting that up and running. I need to engrave all the nibs for drum goals this week. So come hell or high water, I'm going to figure out how that thing works in the next couple days. But the problem's been a lot of makers. Jonathan Brooks will now engrave nibs. Braxton over Divine Island will engrave nibs. Pablo, where I used to buy my nibs, he would engrave them for me. But I got to be honest with you, it is not cost effective. It cost me $4 a nib to have it engraved. So if I can buy the nib, say, for $8 from Brian out at Meister Nibs, or I can buy the nib for $12 from Pablo in Spain, either way, I've got to pay another $4 to have my logo put on it. Now, if you do the math, I've been ordering roughly 100 nibs every other month. to keep up with sales. $400 every other month. That's $2,400 a year, roughly. That more than paid for what's on the desk back there.
Glad to hear
So
you did it that way, Jim. That's good. A lot of people don't do that. They do all this work and never stop to think what the fixed expenses and what they're making per hour. And it's good that you've done that.
We've actually, you know, with between Francisco and I, we've put a lot of time and effort into, for example, we'll take a pen design. We were doing this when we were pricing out the drum goals thing, Joe. That is a single point threaded cap thread. It's quad start. It's not a tapper die like a lot of makers use. That's a fully machined pen. We had to sit down and figure out, okay, how long does it take to do that? What's our average in-house hourly rate? Because there's 3 makers. And from there, how much polishing needs to go into each piece of the pen? How much overall time's there? What's the breakout of material costs? How much can we get those number 8 titaniums for? How much are the clips going to cost us? How long is it going to take to do the bronze plating? And we worked all that up into what we believed was a fairly accurate number. And like most businesses, we didn't hit it right the first time this time, but we came pretty close. And it's not far enough off to really cause anybody any grief. So now that we're growing up, and Joe, Larry, Troy, I know you guys have watched us, and Frank too. Sorry, Frank, I didn't mean to leave you out. You've been there since the beginning too. You know, from where I was in 2017, Larry, when you first came and interviewed me, to today, I don't even recognize what we're doing. It's changed that much. And we've started incorporating in the last 2 years a lot of that core business acumen that you really need to be successful, which is why we've been limiting our growth. You know, we didn't go to Atlas before this year for a reason. We didn't start seeking out more than 1 or 2 collaborations a year for that reason. We didn't tackle Esterbrook for that reason. We needed to make sure that we had the bandwidth, the infrastructure, and the backing in order to do it. Now, I got really lucky. You know, I've been training Ray, Francisco's cousin, since 2018. I got this little gem here about a year ago now. She's been on right about a year full time. And whether it's my exceptional teaching or just sheer dumb luck, she's as competent a pen maker as anybody is out there. I'd put her up against anybody. She quad start threaded half of those Dromgold Avancios. How many 22-year-old ladies do you know can walk into a machine shop and quad start thread anything, let alone single start thread anything?
Turn the machine on.
Now
Yay,
she still
girl
yells Uncle
power,
Jimmy
right?
if a gear slips or something, you know. But for the most part, you know, I'm very fortunate with the people I've been able to get around Francisco and I. And you know, God, I really thank God for bringing Elise into my life with her resin art. You know, when we did the blues pen back in 2018, and I couldn't nail that color for Patrick to save my life. And she listened to him for 5 minutes and said, here you go. And it was it. You know, she just saw it as a way for us to do something together because she knew how passionate I was about pens. And here she is. She's got her own company now that's likely going to outclass or outpace Hines in sales.
It's good to hear you say that, Jim, because there are people out there, as you know, who make pens out of, they just want to do it as a hobby. But if you want to make a business out of it, I know when I had a dental practice, I used to know pretty much down to the $10 value what my office cost per hour to run. And that's why when people say, well, how come it costs this much? Because it costs me $275 per hour to operate this place. And, you know, so I think that's really, I like the fact that there are people that do it as a hobby. They love doing it. Some people do it in retirement, but if you're trying to make a business like you are, you got to know the ins and outs of it. You know?
Well, I didn't really think about this becoming a full-fledged business till about 3 years ago. I was still looking at it as perfect my skills, do it as a hobby, sell some pens, get some new tools, and then when I retire, I got something to supplement my income.
Right.
However, you know, as popularity grew, there's really a market. And, you know, as long as we're serving the community well, no reason not to grow it.
Yeah.
And so we started taking those baby steps to make sure that we weren't going to overextend, we weren't going to go crazy. And, you know, now we're in a position to where, you know, people say Hines pens, it still blows my mind, but everybody knows who we are. It's unreal. We did San Francisco. Just give you a quick example. Last year, I couldn't go to San Francisco. I had to go to Waco to honor a teaching commitment at the SWAT, which is Southwest Area Turners Convention, that I'd made in 2020, right before lockdown. So we sent Elise and Francisco and Jessica out, Jessica's Francisco's wife, to do San Francisco. Everybody was bummed I didn't show up. They all understood that I had the prior commitment, but everybody's upset. Friday morning, when the show opened, we had a line of at least 20 people that came out not to shop and buy pens, but come out to say hi and take a picture because they didn't see me last year.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah.
I mean, it was like one of the very few times I've ever felt like a rock star doing this. The other time was when Bill Meaning jumped me getting off the bus in DC in 2018, about scared the life out of me. Oh my God, it's Jim Hines. Oh, dude. Take it, show. I love him to death. I got to see him in Philly this year. It was great to catch up with him. But,
maybe you'll be bigger than Franklin Christoph at a pen show.
Yeah, hey, you know, here's the one thing I will promise everybody. Until I die, Francisco's got his own plans for when I kick the bucket. But while I'm here, it'll always be bodies at lathes. So we're not going to kowtow like, well, kowtow is probably the wrong verbiage. I have a lot of respect for Franklin Christoph. I've got a lot of respect for Conalea and what they do. You're not going to see me running CNC machines to produce pens. I am a programmer. I've been a programmer and software engineer for almost 40 years. The last thing I want to do is write code to have a machine kick out a pen. We will always have bodies at lathes in order to keep up with demand. And we've proven over the last 4 months, over the last 4 months, that 3 of us can keep up the demand of a single Tormach. We did everybody see the anniversary edition pen for Pen World?
Mm-hmm.
The Texas Bluebonnets?
I did not. No.
Oh, all right. Let me bring it up real quick. So Pen World approached us and they said, hey, you're from Texas. We're from Texas. We love your stuff. Will you do us a 35th anniversary pen? And there was a lot of stuff going on around the family with Pen World. And it came together again last minute. And we had about 7 days to produce another 35 pens for their 35th anniversary. Oh, it's not Pen World, it's Pen World Magazine. Sorry.
We roughed them out in 3 days.
So all 3 of us went to work on a Friday afternoon, and by Sunday morning, all 35 were roughed out and on the polishing lathe. You know, so we can kick out somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 to 125 pens a week if everybody's cranking on all cylinders. There we go. Come on, guys. Help me out here. And I think for us, it's the better way to go. One of these days, we'll do a... Can one of y'all hit Pen World Mag? Oh, there we go. Okay, sorry. There we go. It was timing out. One of these days, we'll do like a video walk through the shop, show you all the vintage lathes we're working on now. Everything we got going on. All right. So,
oh yeah,
here it is.
Ah, beauty.
It's got a little 5-pointed Texas star on it with Pen World. And Elise, again, did the resin for it. And the picture here behind the scenes is the picture she had used as the inspiration. It's outfitted with a red nib and our finial medallion.
Nice.
And I'm not sure how many they have left. Tina's supposed to get back to me and let me know by the Dallas show how many they have. But, you know, that was another thing that we would have never considered doing, you know, a couple of years ago in that short a time. Now, how do I get this to stop sharing? So if anybody likes that pen,
Up at the top, hover over the thing and then stop. Stop sharing.
this is not working out for me.
No, you did.
There you go.
There we go. Okay. All right.
Hey Jim, if
Yes,
you don't
sir.
mind, if you don't mind, you were talking about your evolution and your improvement over the years and where you came from. Hey, I've got a couple of examples of your work over the years.
Oh God.
Oh no.
Oh no.
I picked this one up that was being sold, you know, out of California. One of your older ones. It kind of looks like your old Zeitgeist, and I mean, it's got that big ugly clip. I mean, big, heavy, huge band on it. You know, it's like $100. You know,
Yeah,
paint
like,
street.
Troy is so brutal.
But you know, I mean, hey, look, I bought this one, and I messaged Jim. I said, "Hey, do you know what model this is? It kind of looks like your Zeitgeist looking at your stuff on." And I said, "That's the closest thing I can think of." And so I looked at that, you know, and then compare that though. This is the first one I ever bought from Jim. All right, it's a Beacon, and looking at it, great pen. I can see one or two little tiny things that I might consider okay. That might be a little tiny flaw right around where the clip is. All right.
I can see two of them.
Yeah. And then, you know, the next pen of Jim's that I bought, I absolutely love. This is my favorite of Jim's so far that I've got personally. Matthew's a big fan. He's got 3 or 4 of yours as it is. My wife's got a couple of yours as well. But your ebonite that you did, that German ebonite.
Yep, with the non-Americana clip.
Yeah, that's probably my absolute favorite that you've done so far. All right, and then the one that we just did the giveaway for, your Ersta. I got chastised by somebody from Germany for not pronouncing the E on the end. So,
it's actually Erste.
yeah, I'm a Frenchman. Hey, I grew up in a French household, you know.
That's okay. I'm German. What do you want?
But you know, your Erste. You know, to where you are now on one of your later models. So, and by the way, I did get a 1.1 stub out of it. So, you know, I had problems with you know, the housing we talked about. Yeah, don't worry about it. I bought one off Kirk.
Oh, I never sent you that damn nib. Oh my God. Oh.
Well, the nib I had, it was the housing and the feed. The feed snapped on me a second time.
Oh.
Yeah, the one that
Yovo and their lovely quality control lately. They're
there you
like
go.
Bach of 5 years ago.
Yeah. So the one that we gave away that snapped off of me, the feed. The one I bought, I just took the one out of this, put it together with the nib, and put it together for the other pen. Sent it off, And that's where I had, all right, great. I snapped another one and I ruined the housing trying to get out of the stinking pen because it was going in horrible, coming out horrible. So I was shopping on Kirk's website anyway. Because I bought a Doric, an old vintage Eversharp Doric. And so I was there. I just, all right, give me a 1.1 stub already in the housing for another $20, chuck it in. So since I was ordering anyway, it was there. So no big deal. It's writing now, but still great pen. And, that a little bit of your evolution just over the past, 5 years maybe, as to where you've come. So.
And for those who don't know, that little Earthstay pen, capped, it's about the size of a Platinum 3776 or a Pelican M205. It doesn't post as deeply, so if you post it, it gets a little bit longer, but it still takes a number 6 nib, unlike the Platinum and the Pelican.
Right.
So we wanted to do that for a lot of you guys have heard this. Hey, why don't you try a custom maker? Oh, the pens are too thick. They're too big. Well, this was the answer to that. So it's not a pocket pen. It's just a slimmed down version of a traditional custom pen.
Well, and since you put that on your website, the Pelican M200, 205, in the video that I did for the review, I actually did lay it out next to and compared it to some of those the pens that you mentioned. So you can get the idea. So not only read it on the website, but you can actually see it in person, side by side.
Yeah, it's comparable, not exact, but comparable. So, but yeah, we have it's just I still have my day job. I think everybody knows that. And I was having my one-on-one with my boss today. And he was asking about the pen show, and he's been following. They're very supportive of work, what I do. They're happy to give me all the weekends off to go to the pen show. Usually ends up with me traveling on Thursday and taking a couple days here and there. But he's like, did you ever imagine you'd be where you are now when you started this? And I've worked with him since I started this. He's got some of the older kit pens I've made in the past in his collection. And I'm like, no, this is completely off the hook. This is not where we thought we'd go, but it's where the ride took us. And we're happy and we're blessed to have been able to take it so far. It'll be interesting to see where it goes.
Okay, anybody else like to ask Jim some questions? There's still a few minutes
Or
left.
Rachel, I got her here too. You ask her what the hell it's like to work for her uncle. How much of a slave driver he is.
Rachel, Elise, I'm getting things confused here. Now, where's Elise?
Elise went back downstairs. She was serving everybody else dinner.
So you're Rachel.
That's Rachel. She's my niece. Elise is my better half.
That she is.
Elise is the pretty blonde one that was standing behind me.
Okay, so Rachel is the one making the pens.
Yep. Elise is the one making the resin.
Okay, well, I sent you a message about that already. So I sent you, yeah, and check that out so I can know ahead of time. I can get them all done in. Yep. And you can BT me. Yeah.
So does Rachel come with you to the pen shows? You get to some of those pen shows too, Rachel?
The ones that we drive to.
Okay.
I'm not quite up there enough in the company for it to be worth it for me to fly, especially now with pricing and everything. So I'm typically back home.
If you go to a show and Michael Sull is there, get one of his books on handwriting. Make sure you use the pen. I always tell
he's going to be here this weekend.
Oh, wonderful! Because if I always tell people, if we don't promote writing, it doesn't have to be perfect, then there's no need for pens in the future. So we live in a country where they're trying to do away with handwriting in favor of whether it's, I don't care if it's printing, script, whatever. Put the pen to paper and use it. So. Yes.
Over my dead
body. We've got some of his books. We've been teaching little Natalie to do cursive with that. She not only polishes the pens, she's starting to use them as well. So we've got a couple of Michael's books downstairs. Like, I always love his stationery.
Oh, yeah.
I always pick some up for little notes and things like that. Great guy. I think I told this story a little while ago. The most exciting day I think I had up until recently was 2019 in Colorado. Michael came over to my table. I knew who he was, but I'd not formally met him. And he comes up all polite in that bow tie he's always wearing. And I had a version of the Patriot we did for Frank on the table. It was a resin Elisa poured way back when, done in my standard, postable B24 model. And he's like, I want this pen. And that was enough for me. The master penman wants to buy one of my pens to use. I think I'm doing something right. So
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, I don't want to put Elise under too much pressure, but does she know when she's gonna get around to making my rainbow pen? Christmas is
you know
coming
what?
up.
And we have not forgotten that. Unfortunately, Frank and Narwhal took way too much time this summer.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing.
No. Trust me, it's been in the back of her mind. We've already laid out how she's going to do it. We just need to get the mold in order to do it evenly.
Yeah, I was gonna
So-
tell you. I had ideas if you want to hit me up, because I know that you guys do the resin. When you're taking off the resin from the pens, it's just like going on the floor. You could totally collect those bits of color and then layer them up. I'm just saying.
That does work to an extent. So if you've seen on our website, we have what we call the ribbon blanks. There's sort of partial demonstrators.
Right.
It's done similarly, but not with direct shavings.
Right.
What happens is Eugenio Soto, he runs them through a hopper that shaves them mechanically and gets some bigger chips. When they're coming off the lathe, they're almost translucent and they lose their color. Then if we're using cutting fluid, if we're using a soluble oil, a water soluble oil to keep things cool, that all gets impregnated in there. And you can't wash that out without acetone, and acetone will melt the plastic.
Right.
So it kind of feeds on itself. You almost have to sacrifice.
Right, not in the right place.
It's not a bad idea. Look, we've all had thoughts like that on how do we recycle? Because, dude, I'm telling you, if you look at our waste bin by the lathe,
I believe it.
there's a couple cups here and there. And there's about 20 pounds of shavings, plastic shavings, right? And it just seems an incredible waste because we go from 3/4 down to, sometimes 13 millimeters. And that's an awful lot of plastic.
Yeah.
But there's not really a good way to recycle that.
The other question I had was, have you guys thought about making any dip pen holders?
I have made several of them throughout the years, always by request.
Oh, I see. Okay.
I've done them to where they'll hold a traditional dip nib, and I've done them to where you can actually screw in a Yovo housing. There's just no resin. There's like a little space behind it if you wanted the feed to suck up a little bit. And then you just unscrew it, screw another one in. Still works like a dip pen, though, but you can write a whole lot more pages with it. That's terrible English. You can write a lot more words with it because you have that feed that's already set up to saturate backing it.
Brilliant.
So if you wanted to do something like that, hit me up. We can give it a try.
Cool. I just want a chunky boy, like huge chunky boy.
Oh, thank God, because everybody who goes after me for one of those dip pens, they want like a freaking magic wand. And they're so delicate and hard to do without breaking. I'm all set to give you a chunky boy.
I got one of these. Where do I have it, Danny? I got one of these from a pen show, and ever since then, I wanted to like something like this. It's a
Oh yeah.
literati desk pen, but I hate
Who did that? Did Renee over at Scriptorum do that one?
literati desk pen. I don't know.
Literati.
All
Okay.
I know is that I like that, but I want like a dip nib. You know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jim, historically, dip pens were very, very delicate. When you look at like the ones of legendary status, like the Magnuson pen holders, they were so delicate. But the problem is, you know, modern folks know that it's not good for your hands. You know, there was a plastic surgeon who specialized in hand surgery who came to one of our calligraphy conventions, and he was very impressed by the larger pen holders because it wouldn't cause the same amount of cramping in your hand. And I think people that go for the really narrow stuff, they tend to misunderstand it. Historically, it doesn't necessarily mean it was the best. You know, it's just, oh yeah.
Well, I think the attraction, I think part of the attraction is, you know, you go to the drugstore, you pick up a Bic, you pick up a Papermate, and it's what, 5 millimeters in diameter at most, 6 at most. And that's what people are raised writing with. Not a traditional, you know, 12, 13, 14 millimeter pen that's comfortable and doesn't cause your hand, like you said, to cramp down as you're trying to get across a page. You know, I always hate writing with real skinny pens. It hurts my wrists. You know, I type for a living. I've already got a bit of carpal tunnel going on. I start writing with a skinny Bic and everything goes to crap. That's why my preferred pen is my Avancio or bigger. My Emperor.
So I take it you don't collect cross pens.
No, I don't. But I do have some. I do have a small collection of, and I don't know the model. Please forgive me. The Parkers that had all the integrated nib down the body. They're just pressure capped, and they start at the top of the body and they go down to the nib. They did a whole line of them. I've got a collection of 3 or 4 of those. Nick Pang's been looking out for them for me. I think
they called it the Big Click or something like that.
It might be. I've just been fascinated with them, and you know, it's like my 4th or 5th Parker. I've got a couple 1930 Parker Vacuumatics, the large size and that burgundy celluloid. I absolutely love that pattern and that color. And in fact, I've been doing a lot of my packing slips and stuff with that Parker lately. So yeah.
Oh, Jim, real quick before we go, remember this one?
Oh, the Paladin. How can I forget that? You were barking at me when I was making that pen, just hollering at me left and right. Not like that, like this.
Yep, I loved it. I really do. There you go. This is all about Hines pens. Yep. It's a bad boy right here. Uh-huh.
That was a fun pen to make. I like that one. Anything else, folks? I hope this has been entertaining. I know
Larry,
I
think you went on mute. Looks like Larry's trying to talk.
Yeah, Larry, you're on mute. There we go.
Rachel, real quick.
Everybody, I'm going to get off here.
We're fixing to go, Will.
Jim, congratulations on the collaborations and stuff. Sounds like Jim's got a lot of exciting things going on, and congratulations to you. And we'll see everybody later. Y'all have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Take care, Will.
Everybody, be safe.
You too. Bye.
Larry, I'll email you tomorrow about what you put in the chat.
And don't forget to talk with the lovely one there, because she'll go like this. Look, she'll go like this. Look. Just like that. So my friends, hey, thanks to everybody for joining me today with Jim and the lovely niece. So, because when we get off, that's when it's all going to catch hell. So We will see you guys very soon.
It's been fun.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Larry.
Larry.
Thanks,
Larry.
Bye-bye. Dan. Bye, Dan. Little
Thank
Dan
you.
Dan. And Lynn is. Bye, everybody.